He's been riding and turning wrenches on V-twin American motors since the 70s. He's a man of experience and a man of respect. He's Rusty Coons, and this is his podcast. In this episode, Rusty's guest is the premier designer for high-performance Victory and Indian motorcycle aftermarket parts, Lloyd Greer of Lloyd's Worx and Lloyd's Garage.
Hello, my name is Rusty Coons, and today I have with me Lloyd Greer of Lloyd's Worx. Innovator and just a really great gentleman. I'm really happy to have him on here. I've been wanting to get this interview for a while. He's very relevant in the motorcycle world. He's come up with some really cool supercharging systems for Victory and for Indians, and done some other really great work with schools and kids. How you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me, Rusty.
Right on, man. Thanks for being here. All right, man. So look, before we get into the meat of this thing, let's go back to when you first got on motorcycles. How old were you, and what was the vehicle you were riding?
I think it was fifth grade, however old I was back then. Um, First bike was a 1970 Honda SL70. Nice red little motorcycle that my dad got as a basket case. And, I've got an identical twin brother, so he kind of bought it for both of us to share. And, I think so that led me to be a good fighter also, because I was always fighting to ride it. But that was our first bike.
So you had to share the bike with your brother?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't think he didn't like riding nearly as much as I did, so it kind of worked out pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I remember when I was a little kid, my dad gave me a tote goat, and it's like a mini bike but a little bigger, but real
Yep.
slow. And I had a half sister that was like 9 years older than me, and she would want to ride it, and she'd chase me down on the thing and pull me off of it because I wouldn't let her get on it, you know?
Yeah, I think we all fought them battles back then.
Yeah, just not enough to go around,
Yeah.
So what was next for you in the motorcycle world?
Being young, of course, it was dirt bikes. So 100cc Yamahas, 125s, 200s. Used clunkers you'd buy from your buddy's buddy that was just whipped to death, but that's all the scratch you had to pick it up with. So you did with what you could.
Right on. So you had a handful of dirt bikes while you were a youngster, going up through
Yep,
your teens. Did
three wheelers.
you do any racing or anything, or did you just pretty much for your own fun?
Nope, just my own fun. I mean, we grew up. It was kind of desolate where we were. There wasn't, and we didn't have much money to go racing with at all. So, I mean, just trying to grab coins to put gas in the tank was the biggest thing
Yeah, but you're
back
right out
then.
there in the countryside, probably, right? You just ride off right from where you live.
Oh yeah, I grew up in a valley with the mountains behind us. So literally, it was great because every day during the summer I just jump on my bike and head up into the mountains riding. It was
I
awesome.
love that. Yeah, I did that when I was a kid. I lived out in a small farming town, and I could just jump on the bike and head right out into the fields. It's fun as hell. All right, so when you got out of high school, what was your forte? What were you doing? Who'd you work for, and when did you get into motorcycles? How long after that?
Well, I dropped out of I dropped out of school after ninth grade, so I never made it to high school. And then, well, actually, it was a couple of weeks in high school, but nonetheless, uh, at that time, I needed a car. So whatever I had on two or three wheels got sold to get a car. You know,
Hmm.
and of course, winters in New York could be a little bit rough, and you can't ride bikes year round here, so a car was the choice for quite a few years. But right after high school, I worked for my grandfather as a stonemason. And then a couple years later, I took a job at Yellow Freight as a Teamster working on loading docks.
Hmm. So that was far from the motorcycle business where you're at now.
Far from it. Yep.
Yeah. So what age were you when you started working on motorcycles? I think you worked for
28.
Polaris after Teamsters. Is that right?
Yeah. So I gotten hurt on the job, and I herniated 3 discs in my neck and had to have discectomy, and I just couldn't go back to that job. So the local Polaris dealership right here in town was looking for a mechanic. So I'm like, all right, I can wrench. So I took that job, and shortly thereafter, the Victory was coming around pushing the motorcycles to new dealers, and I'm like, man, we need to get these bikes. And I can remember the conversation I had with the owner, and I'm like, yeah, we should get these bikes in. I mean, this is going to be good. Polaris is a phenomenal engineering company.
Yeah.
It's got to be a good product to start with. And his first stupid response was this: well, what if we sell the motorcycle and someone gets killed on it? And I said, well, as long as you're not the one that killed them, it's okay. Like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah. I
So
mean, yeah, it doesn't make sense.
yeah. So
Yeah.
long story short, we ended up taking them on, and that was my start back into it.
Right on, man. So I know it was about what, 99 when they came out with the first Polaris. I mean, Victory.
Yeah.
I remember that. And since then, it's just amazing. But the technology, I mean, the company is just unbelievable. Their engineering, those things are bulletproof.
Yeah, they were.
So while you were working there, was that when they decided that they wanted to try to build a supercharged motorcycle, or were you on your own already?
No, I was on my own by the time that came along. My stint at that dealership expired in 2004 when it went out of business.
Okay, so they went out of business in '04, and you started Lloyd's Motor Works at that time?
Yeah, I actually started Lloyd's Motor Works a few years prior to that,
Yeah.
but I was just selling stuff online, mail order, and then once the dealership closed, I had a 6-month-old son. I had no choice but to start working, and I was fortunate enough that I had a single car garage next to my house, and all my customers were calling looking to get stuff worked on, and fortunately I just started working out of my garage for about a year and a half before I was able to secure a building to move into.
So it sounds like you were a really good mechanic while you worked for Polaris, and all those guys with victories and stuff, you got a reputation. And when they closed down, those guys were coming to you, and you were fixing bikes out of your garage, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right on. And did you come up with performance upgrades at that time, or was it later on down the line?
No, that's about the time that I started getting into it. I inquired to a company about doing a product for Victory, and I remember talking to the owner. It was Mark Doback. Mark Doback was the founder of DynoJet, and Mark says, "How about this? How about I send you all the components you need to build this fuel management? We'll put your name on it, and you sell it." And I'm like, "Wow, whoo." Um, okay, and I mean, I had to program the units. I had to learn how to program the units. Write the code for it. I mean, I was dropped in tiny waters, man. I didn't know how to swim it, and fortunately, I got through it, and we developed our first fuel management for Victory, and once I realized, well, damn, that was actually pretty easy. Let me call this company and see if they'll do this for me. And it just kept rolling, 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 and eventually, I had a fundamental of everything automotive because we grew up motorheads. My dad was a motorhead, and factory racer for Arctic Cat and raced cars and everything else back in the day. So we had all the fundamentals, and I knew how to work on bikes. And then once I started to realize that I could call companies and have product built to my specs, it was just game on.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got a Victory in 2011, a Vision, and I just started doing all kinds of weird stuff with it over the years. But when I heard about your supercharger kit, I looked into it and I was blown away at the engineering of it and the simplicity. It was the most dependable, beautiful setup and compact. You really tucked it in really nice into the bike. Because you know how a lot of superchargers, they're sticking way out, and you got to wrap your knee around it and all kinds of weird stuff. Yours was done the right way. And tell me about that, because I got one for my bike and put it on there, and I loved it. It was the most, like I said, it was the most dependable, and it worked, man. I was getting, I just had the 106, and with your camps and a couple of things, and a tuner and a dyno was doing like 153 and a half to the rear wheel, which wasn't bad. Now I know you got
Right.
one, and I want you to tell us about your Vision. I think what 240 rear horsepower.
Yep. Yep.
But tell me about how that came about, the whole supercharging system.
So back in well, Victory came out with cross country in 2010, and of course that's what turned Victory around. It was now there was a new buyer, and there was the better yet is there was a new buyer that had money to spend on the bike. Prior to the cross country, guys were just buying the bikes, but they weren't. I would say they were probably blue collar type guys. Just working their ass off, and bought a bike just to have a motor transportation. And then when cross country came out, I think that was the next level white collar type guy that wanted to take it and customize it. So at the time, Victory had called me up and asked if we could do some. They originally wanted to do a turbo, and I'm like, no, you want turbo? I'm out. I'm not. To me, yeah, turbos can make power and et cetera, but they just aesthetically just never fit a bike properly. And so they said, well, what would you do? And I said, I do a supercharger. And I didn't even have a clue what the hell I was even talking about, back then about that. And they said, okay, well, we want you to build a supercharger kit for this bike. We're exploring the possibilities of the platform. Um, might end up being a production type bike, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, heck yeah. I mean, so we spent literally, by the time I got the bike in my shop, I had 36 days to develop, manufacture, and get a working, running prototype on that bike because it was going to Vegas for the 2012 Victory Dealer Show.
Yeah.
So literally it was 16, 20-hour days for 36 days straight
Wow.
to get that together. And my first, because it was a possibility that this could be a production type scenario, I felt that the unit had to look like it's always been on the bike. Like it wasn't a sore thumb sticking out there, that it seamlessly integrated with the body panels and the motor, exhaust, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the biggest thing I strived for, was making that kit so that it looked that way.
And it did. Everything bolted up perfectly. The fitment was just flawless. And all the finish work, anodizing, and everything was just perfection. I mean, I was really impressed with it. And the hardware, polished
Oh yeah,
hardware. You had two colors, I think, at the time. You had polished and black,
black.
anodized high gloss. I like that black anodized with the bright hardware. But yeah, great kit. So tell me what Victory decided to do with this program after you developed it.
Well, I got to hand it to my machinist Russell. I come up with the silly ideas, and I sketch shit on napkins and paper and, kind of make cardboard cutouts and say, here, this is what I want and this and that. And he puts it on CAD and it's exactly as I'm envisioning it. So, so we made a good team on our big projects like that. But so when it wasn't viable for Victory to use this as a production platform, what I ended up doing is basically taking it back in my own hands to sell it as an aftermarket kit because we'd had so much time. The first run was 36 straight days, but after we got the bike back and refined, the kits, it was probably another solid year. Um, so in order to try to recoup some of my time and effort on that, they allowed me to sell it as an aftermarket bolt on.
And the first kit that you did for the dealer show, was that on the cross country or was it on the Vision?
No, it was on a cross country.
Okay. I like the cross country. That's a good looking bike.
Yeah.
Real nice bike. Okay, so Victory handed it back to you. You had the most quality supercharger kit of all brands that I've seen out there.
Thank you.
Dependable, so simple, that little short drive belt going to the charger. I mean, it was just bulletproof. And you could ride the thing like a stock bike. You didn't have any weird stuff going on with it. It was just, you could ride it docile or you could ride it as a hot rod and just run it to the rev limiter, you know? Great job on that one.
Thank you.
So now you had those going on. What other performance products were you putting out for the Victory at the time?
We had everything. I developed a dry nitrous kit in conjunction with my fuel management company, which was there again. I talk about simplicity. We developed a nitrous bracket that housed not only that bolted to the frame, but not only held the bottle, but held the electronics, the solenoid, and the plumbing within the bracket.
Nice.
And then I made a wiring harness and a flip switch that basically flip your switch and your horn button turned into your nitrous button. You program it in, you put your pill in on how many horsepower shot you want. You programmed in the percentage of fuel delivery you wanted in addition to the over and above to the injectors based on your horsepower shot. So literally, as soon as you hit the button, it sprayed the nitrous, added additional fuel right at the injector. Super clean system. We had, 4 different grinds of camshafts. I had 2 different engine sizes for big bore kits. We did head porting, variable pressure plate clutches, pretty much anything, fuel management, air cleaners, air filters.
Right on. Now tell me this: the guys that are still riding Victories out there, and there's a bunch of them. They've got riding groups, so you know better than I do. Are they still able to get a lot of these parts from you for Victory?
All the performance parts are still available for me. We still sell quite a bit of Victory performance parts, and the way I look at it is this too, is that, Victory is what got me started in this industry, got me on the map, and, I'm not walking away from that customer base. They're too loyal to me. Uh, they've supported me through all these years. I'm going to support them for the rest.
Right on. And I know they need you now that especially with company, not being out there anymore.
Yeah.
Now, you took all this technology that you developed for Victory. Did you transfer a lot of that over for Indian?
Yes. Took all the mistakes I learned and try to make something better for the Indian stuff. So we developed a supercharger kit for Indian. It was even simpler than the Victory kits. You know, um, horse. That one was a gear drive off of the clutch gear, and then belt driven to the supercharger. So our step up ratios were significantly higher than what we could achieve on the Victory side. So we were starting off with more boost to begin with, and then we could at that point decide if we wanted to keep it or blow it off through the surge valve or a blow off valve on them.
So you had on the one that I had from you, you had the pulley and I achieved like 153 and a half to the rear wheel, and that wasn't even your big pulley.
Right.
You had the same thing on yours with the big bore kit, and you got 240. And was that the difference was what?
Basically, my Vision had a 116 big bore kit in it, ported heads, probably bigger cams than what you bike, Rusty. And I had a big pulley on it.
So you
So
got the so from mine you had a bigger pulley, so you got more compression,
more
uh,
boost. Yeah.
compressed more air, and you had probably bigger cams than the supercharger cams I had, and you had
Correct.
10 more cubic inches in your bore, correct?
Yes.
And
And I was probably revving it a lot higher than what you did too.
yeah, what were you turning your revs up to?
On my Vision, I turned it up to about 68,
Yeah, I turned
7,000.
mine up. Mine up was around right around 7-ish.
Oh, it was okay.
Yeah, but I didn't use your ignition. I used another one. Um, but actually, I wish I would have used yours. Yours was very simple, But I went with something else. I can't think of what I was using back then. But it was much more of a pain. You made your stuff compact and easier to hook up than mine, definitely. And I think yours you could just plug it in and you didn't even have to dyno it. Is that correct? The kit that
Yeah,
I
I had
used.
full I had full auto tune units out there, literally,
Yeah,
that you would literally hook it up and instantaneously it would self tune.
that's
Um,
beautiful. What were you getting to the rear wheel on the regular kit on the ones like that, dude? Self tuned.
we were normally getting on a stock cross country with set of cams in them. We'd normally hit 170 to 180 horsepower to the rear wheel. Um,
Damn.
and when you say that yours made 150, the first thing that comes to my mind is you probably had a slight leak around the uh, the blower housing where it mounted to the unit.
Uh-huh.
Um, so we found out later that that was kind of an issue that we had to seal up, and you'd gain 20, 25 horsepower instantly.
Oh man, I wish I would have known about that.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, that's all right.
so
Yeah. It was still fast, man. People were calling it a bottle rocket. I just hit the rev limiter and popped the clutch.
yeah,
And those things are built like I mean, it's like a Maytag washing machine. You can't hardly break them.
no, I mean I don't know if you've seen the ones that we did for the stunt riders that used to run for victory.
I saw
So
those.
we built four supercharged bikes for them that they used for drift bikes,
I
and I
saw.
mean literally, them bikes were wide open for days on end. I mean, I just cringed. I'm waiting for stuff to fly out. You just never know.
Never
And
did, huh?
man, knock on wood, nothing ever did.
Now, were they
So
using the off the shelf version or the bigger pulley like you had on your personal bike?
no, it was off the shelf.
Man, I was watching those
Yeah.
drift videos they did. That was impressive, man. They were spinning that. They never stopped spinning the rear tires.
Oh no, no. We did a video out in Jennings down in Florida Speedway, and for 3 days, man, them guys just held them bikes right to the rev limiter, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Well, what's the bottom end designed to take right out of the factory? Is it at least 150, isn't it?
Oh no, I've pushed over 300 horsepower out of stock lower end.
And no
Matter of
problem.
fact, that was another thing. One of the marketing managers at Victory challenged me. He said, "You can't build a 300 horsepower bike that'll go cross country." I said, "Yep, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to use a stock lower end too." So we
Right
did.
on. So how
We
did you
built
do that one?
we built a bike called Bandit. So I based it off of course, the Bandit Trans Am. Had custom wheels done and honeycomb or snowflakes. Had it all black bike with gold pinstripes and gold wheels and to match the Trans Am stuff. And that bike made well, I had a problem with it keeping belts on the supercharger because we had to go with a larger automotive type supercharger on that bike. And of course, when the belts are that small, availability of trying to get really good Kevlar belts is really narrow. So at pretty much 4,800 RPMs, the thing would break a supercharger belt. But at 4,800 RPMs, it was making 276 horsepower.
Ooh, damn.
Yeah. So later on, I ended up finding some Kevlar cog belts, and we switched over to Kevlar cog belts, and we pushed it right over 300 horse easy.
Wow.
So
So you used a little
yeah,
bit bigger Pro Charger in your kit, correct?
yeah, bigger intercooler.
Bigger pulley, heavier belt, Kevlar belt,
Yep.
bigger injectors.
Oh yeah. On that one, we actually had a two fuel system unit on it because I would run it on pump gas. But I had we built a secondary tank to fit into the right side saddlebag, and we filled that one up with methyl alcohol. And then I had two outboard injectors, and I designed the plenum so that we'd spray the methanol injectors into the plenum, and that thing was full auto tune also. So at what was it? I think at 6 pounds of boost, it turned the secondary fuel system on. At 9 pounds of boost, it started spraying alcohol into the system, into the plenum.
Wow, what a
So
setup.
yeah, so basically we got out of our detonation issue by, running pump gas, but running alcohol to suppress the detonation only when it was on the higher boost levels.
How many of those bikes did you build with that had around 300 horsepower?
That was the only one.
And was that on the cross country or the Vision?
That was on a cross country, and we actually rode that one across country. I rode it across country on the 2015 hot bike tour.
So that
So
bike had all that power available just at the twist of the wrist, right? And how long did it hold together?
So that bike, we had I developed a 129 cubic inch big bore kit for that bike. And we ended up having some sealing issues between the head and the gaskets because we were getting close to the oil passage. So as far as the blower side of it, that bike didn't have a problem, but we ended up having to drop the motor size down to a 116 to get the reliability on the sealing from the head to the
And what
cylinder.
do you think with everything the same, but dropping down to 116 from 126, what do you think your horsepower was then to the rear
You know
wheel?
that well, the nice thing about boost is that you can always make it up, and if you drop your cubic inches, you can always make it up in
Boost it
boost.
up? Yeah,
So, but it wouldn't have really lost that much more. Even if it was 10 or 15 horsepower lower,
yeah,
20 horsepower or whatever.
yeah. That's crazy horsepower, man. That's is
Yeah.
insane. So is that bike still around running?
I actually I had a gentleman that fell in love with it that was a collector of everything Bandit. And I said, I'll sell it to you, but not with this motor. I want to put a stock 106-inch motor in it with a small supercharger on it because it was just too much.
Yeah.
I mean, you could roll down the road at 40, 45 miles an hour, rolling the throttle and just lift the wheel at will, and that's,
So you
they're
have the
not,
motor? You have the motor right now?
I do. Yep.
What are you going to do with it?
I don't know, man. I've probably got 50 or 60 victory motors sitting back there, and
Yeah,
some of them are Bonneville race motors and drag motors and stuff. And I got more ideas than I've got time. So, like
yeah.
typical.
I'll tell you what, if I ever get across country, I'm going to try to make a deal with you on some of that. That's
Sure.
power
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
nothing else, man. You know?
Yep. I just started, I got a lady friend that shows some interest in racing. So I said, you know what? I'll build you a victory drag bike.
Right?
Yep.
Oh yeah, they're bulletproof, man.
Oh, yeah.
Right on. Okay, so now you mentioned Bonneville. So let's shift gears. So Laura Clock and her family, I mean, that was an amazing thing that they did on Bonneville. They had the two daughters and the mother
Yep.
and Brian from Clockworks out there. They really did a lot And I watched that video a while back, and I noticed you were the one that built the big bad motorcycle that got the most speed, right?
Yeah, we that was a really rewarding and exciting program. Uh, at the time, I was president of the school board for my district, which is a huge irony because I didn't make it past ninth grade, so here I am years later. Now I'm a president of the school board for 6,800 kids, and
How'd you end up doing that? Did you just get concerned because you had a kid in school, or?
well, long story short, there was some issues going on at the district, and my wife at the time said, "Aren't you going to go up there and complain?" And I'm like, "Whoa, I know nothing about this situation, and I'm not going to be the fool standing up there looking like a fool talking about something that I don't really know or understand." So I'm like, "Okay, so how do I know and understand it? Get involved." so,
Right.
so I
Yeah.
jumped on the school board. Um, and of course, because I had a troubled teenager years, I took an interest to the at-risk youth in the school district, and had one of the principals at the time reach out to me and say, "Hey, listen, Lloyd, I got a core class of basically rednecks that are into dirt bikes and snowmobiles, motorcycles. Would it be okay if we worked on like a moped or mini bike at your shop?" And I'm like, "Fuck no, I got something in mind." So I called him. I called the principal. I said, "Hey guys, meet me tomorrow for lunch." "Yeah, what's up?" I'm like, "I'll tell you at lunchtime." So we go to the diner for lunch. They're like, "All right, what's up?" I'm like, "How about this? We're gonna take there's 21 kids. We're gonna take 21 kids. We're gonna bring them in my shop every week. We're gonna build a victory motorcycle. We're gonna go to Bonneville Salt Flats and we're gonna race it." Principal looks at me. He's like, "Lloyd, I don't understand a damn thing you said, but the answer is yes." All right. So I got a hold after that. I got a hold of Laura Clock, and I said, "Okay, Laura, this is what I got. This is what I want to do." And she's like, "Absolutely, we're supporting you." So collectively, we got our heads together and formed a plan, and we got sponsors: U.S. Army, Faro 3D laser scanning systems, Rabbit, Haas, CNC automation. Started backing us to do this program. And, we went out to the Bonneville Salt Flats the first year and we set a land speed record with a bike that 21 at risk kids built in my shop. And I mean, talk about, being on top of the world. I mean, that was great. And because we weren't, of course, everybody wants to go to Bonneville set a record, but what's the reality? Slim to none. I mean, people go out there year after year after year and never achieve that goal. So, but our goal wasn't necessarily to set a record; it was to change their lives. To give them some inspiration and show them that motorcycles can change your life for the better. And it's about camaraderie and uh, working together as teams and, sharing ideas with peers that you normally wouldn't even talk to in a regular high school setting. And we just knocked it out of the park that year. And then the following year, we did it again and set another record.
Wow.
So, and I get really pumped up and excited talking about it because back then we had the typical automotive shop, wood shop. After 2014, all that shit got cleared out, thrown into dumpsters. The rooms got cleared, and we started an engineering academy. Uh, we've got at this right now, 10 years later, we've got 5 brand new Haas CNC milling and turning centers in the high school shop class. We've got 16 Haas CNC training centers. We've got 2 laser engravers and cutters. There's 2 water jets, plasma cutters. Let's see what else. Rapid prototyping equipment, um, injection molding. I mean, it just goes on and on. A robotics program uh, is phenomenal. I mean, we've got more engineering capability in a high school now than most college classes or college places that have engineering programs have, and it's just phenomenal. Just because we started racing a motorcycle.
So now all these kids in the school, you got the Lloyd'z, the kids that hang out smoking at the corner and all that stuff, and they're just not interested. They're bored to death. Did you get a lot of them involved? I mean, did they really
Oh,
light
absolutely.
up?
The other thing is the girls. The girls have a lot of enrollment into the classes. With my friends and connections at Polaris, we were able to bring Polaris University into the high school also. So now kids can go and get training on any Polaris product in both bronze and silver level certifications. You
Wow.
know, Same thing like Haas. We're an official Haas training center. These kids can come out of high school with a CNC programming certificate.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah,
big time amazing right there. So you got kids that can come out of there certified to work on Polaris or on the Haas machines.
correct.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've never
And,
heard of
and,
that.
and there's 11 other programs based on the STEAM and STEM formats, from leadership and law academy to medical to finance. So a lot of these kids, my son, I think he's in his senior year now. I think he's going to leave high school with, I think, 18 college credits. And you
That's
can get
amazing.
just in your last 2 years of taking these enrichment and enrollment programs, you can get as high as, I believe, 23 college credits before you leave high school.
I'll tell you
And
what, man, kids got to be fighting to get in that school.
oh my God. And the thing that we found out is that, like when I was in high school, you had your motorheads hung out in their little group and you had your jocks and, the typical stereotypical type settings. And
Yeah,
now we see these groups just intermingle for commonality. And that is great because now you've got some kid that struggles just to do his homework and get through school now being mentored by some of the top kids in the class.
yeah.
And and it's just super rewarding to see that come all together.
I love it, man. I know when I was in high school, most of the kids graduated, they had no clue what they were going to do with their life. And they weren't
Right.
taught the practical things about taking care of yourself, business, balancing books, all that stuff that you really need to know. They should have some sort of a life, like a curriculum that covers what you're going to do when you get kicked out the door from your house, so they're
Oh, I
not
agree.
clueless. But that right there, that's college level stuff, everything you got going on over there.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man. My hat's off to you on that, man. Right
Well,
on. So,
I have to say, it's not just me. It takes a team
oh
to
yeah,
do that.
a big team.
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't take all the credits on that by any means. The high school principal, Aaron Hotmeyer, that dude, he does the only thing he does is what's good for kids. And if it's good for kids, he's going to implement it. And he's been a rock star and doing a lot of the leg work and the grunt work and getting this all to occur.
that's amazing, man. I hope someday to go and take a little tour, take a look at that.
Yeah, I mean, you've been out in this area. You've only been 10, 15 minutes away. I know it.
Yeah,
So,
I was out there. I told you I was working down there in Newburgh on a project, and I wanted to come up to your shop, and I showed up on a day you weren't there. I don't know. Probably a Sunday or something. Were you closed on Mondays or something, or Friday?
no,
You might have been
no,
out of town.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, nice area. But yeah, I'd definitely like to see what you got firsthand going on. And Another thing is, man, I'll tell you what, that the performance you're getting out of those victories, the cross country, um, that's kind of relighting my fire. I might want to get a cross country and put in one of them kits, but I want to bring it up over
Oh
2.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
just let me know what you want. We'll make it happen.
300 maybe or close.
So here's what I say. Everybody wanted 200, and I would
Yeah,
tell them, no, you don't. No, you don't.
yeah,
200 is a nice number, but 200 isn't an easy bike to ride.
yeah.
Especially when, like, out in the Northeast or anywhere really, when you get rain. My vision. I can remember one time I got in a caught in a torrential downpour out in Sturgis on our way to Mount Rushmore. And damn, every turn I'm coming around and starting to ease in the throttle, the thing's just kicking out on you.
Oh
That
yeah. Yep.
sucks. And so when you got a lot of power, it's great when the conditions are perfect. But if
Yeah.
you're going to ride it as a daily rider,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, for me, it'd be, I'm in Southern California. It's pretty dry here, semi-arid,
yeah,
and it'd be good. And I got some areas I can open up. And my whole thing is I want to be able to have performance that matches or beats everybody I ride with.
right,
And right now, I'm riding a bike that's about 170 horsepower, and it's fast, but not that kind of fast.
yeah.
And I've always liked that cross country. It's got nice lines, the fairing and everything works. So who knows? We'll talk down the future on that one. But anyway, you got anything else you want to cover before we sign off?
Man, I got so many irons in the fire, between, Lloyd's Motor Works, Lloyd's Garage, the 2 Indian dealerships. I mean, place out in Sturgis. It's just, we've always got something going on.
Yeah, you know what? Well, you mentioned the one in Sturgis. I was blown away. I went to the Buffalo Chip, and you got a big old shop over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that
We're,
open? Is that year round?
no, nope, 4 weeks a year.
Okay, gotcha. Pretty busy though when it's going on, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I rode that bike you built for Rod. That was a good running bike.
Oh, okay. The red
The
one.
red one? Yeah,
Yep, that had a 131 kit in it.
yeah, yeah.
Nice torquey.
Yep, ran real good. All right, Lloyd. Do you want to give a shout out to your company, maybe website, phone number, contact info, or anything?
Yeah. 2 ways to get our products is either Lloyd's with a Z.com or LloydsGarage.com, or you can call 845-744-4889.
Right on, man. Great talking to you. I'm telling you, you're an innovator, man.
Well, thank you.
And very relevant in the industry, and I look forward to everything else you got coming up.
All right. Thank you, Rusty.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
For sponsorship opportunities, product reviews, to book Rusty for an appearance, or to recommend a guest for the podcast, you can email Rusty directly at rustycoons@gmail.com. Production support and editing provided by Joel Rotz of Leaf-Lethic Studios. Thanks for watching, and as always, ride hard and ride safe.